I have 3 points of contention in the side opposition's case. Firstly, on privacy. Secondly, on the distrust between parent and child. And thirdly, on alternatives. First, parental autonomy. The society widely endorses parents as the guardian of the child. The society believes that the parent has the absolute control of the child. The reason is because there is a unique relation between the child and the parent, which is why that relationship cannot be seen anywhere else, even in companies. Ladies and gentlemen, parents work so hard. They commit their life resources and their life to their children. They work so hard just to see their parents happy. Most importantly, they work so hard to see their parents safe. So it is their utmost right to be given the right to take decisions of their children's safety. If a parent can decide what clothes they wear, decide what school they go to, if a parent can take the decision on whether their child should be on life support, then the right of parent supersedes the right of privacy of the child. Secondly, a child's right is not absolute. A child below the age of 18 does not have his absolute rights. As a society, the government and the parents feel that the child has not reached that certain level of maturity, which is why a child at the age of 14 cannot drive, cannot work, cannot drink. It can be seen clearly in Hollywood movies where they put age restrictions on disturbing movies, and also inappropriate TV shows are specifically put late at night so that it is because those shows assume that the children are asleep because the influence is high. Secondly, however, even if the child is mature enough and should be treated like an adult, we believe that the rights must be measured by its consequences. Unsupervised usage of internet used by children has major consequences over the child. The child can be very prone to cyberbullying even if he or she is 14 years old. We've seen it clearly in Amanda Talk. Cyberbullying is something which is too dangerous. It destroys his self-esteem. And mere comments can disturb a child's mindset, mainly because the child does not know how to handle the internet and how big the internet is. Even in airports, even adults have their privacy held for a certain period of time, just because the government wants to ensure the safety of you, which is why the privacy is taken away for the safety of you and the safety of the country. However, now moving on to my second contention on policy, it suggests that distrust between parents and child. If a parent is going the extra mile to go through all the red tape and documents to find out what is wrong with their child, then it clearly implies that there's already a lot of distrust between the parent and the child, which is why the parent is so desperate to solve the issue. In this case, we would rather the issue be discussed openly within the family, and this gives it the best chance of being resolved in the long term. Whereas in the ops model, the problem remains swept underneath the carpet. We rather short-term arguments which will be solved in long term rather than their world where a child is left alone to suffer from depression and cyberbullying, and which can lead the child to commit suicide. Lastly, on my contention about alternatives. They brought up the fact of Safe Search and the cyberbullying website. All these alternatives limit a child to give his opinions and prevent himself from privately interacting with people on the internet. And so this principal concession that parents should not allow their children to use the internet is unsupervised. However, not only are the methods contradictory, but it's not enough, as there are plenty of ways to bypass and render them in an effective way. These are some. There are cyberbullying cafes and land shops where children can easily go and use the internet without being supervised, which can prone them to many dangers. Now to my substantive on roll-on benefits. The thesis of this argument is that email and social networking sites can offer vital information key to the early detection of potential psychological problems. As my first speaker has mentioned, there is currently an asymmetry of power and information that currently exists between a parent and child. The widespread accessibility of social media often means children spend large amount of time unsupervised on the internet. This means that the majority of interactions are hidden from his or her parents, which could be proved deadly, particularly when it comes to psychologically imbalanced individuals. Allowing parents to access their child's email and social networking sites can provide crucial and previously unknown information that may allow them to intervene when necessary or seek professional help. The 2012 mass murder at Sandy Hook Elementary School. Yes.
What makes you think that when children know that parents are going to intervene and look at their private information, what makes you think they won't work their conversations?
Firstly, we believe that if the children do put their comments and opinions on Facebook with the mindset of what their parents will be thinking, we feel it's good as we are building them to think correctly and we're building them to be more practical and be aware of what they see on the internet. No, thank you. As the internet is a very high spread rate. Now moving on. 2012 mass murder at Sandy Hook Elementary School, for example, saw 20-year-old Adam Lanza mercilessly shoot 26 students and teachers before killing himself. This event shocked many of his friends and families. Although generally quiet, Lanza was not known to harbor such tendencies. Later investigation in his emails revealed that Lanza had a brain-related developmental problem that gave him unusually high amount of predatory aggression. Furthermore, Lanza was obsessed with firearms, which caused him to research on other school shootings. Had Lanza's parents been able to access and assess his online interactions, Lanza's well-hidden and deep-rooted disorders may have been detected earlier, and those 26 lives would have been saved. No thank you. Even if one child is saved from this tool, even if one child is saved from our policy, we argue that our policy has succeeded and it is worth fighting for. Secondly, it is in the vested interest of the websites such as Facebook and Gmail to allow parents to access their children's accounts. As social media continues to grow widely, conservative families and parents continue to remain worried and potential pitfalls for their children to run around unsupervised on the internet. Facebook in particular has made numerous community pledges to improve safety. We argue that our policy is running alongside Mark Zuckerberg on his promise to many people out there that Facebook will be a safe site, which is why we say go with the side of opposition as we see the best for the people, for the parents, for the students, and for the community. So go with the side of opposition. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, my first speaker has already spoken to you in depth about how this motion infringes upon a child's development. But I today will speak to you about how it infringes on the principle of individual privacy and attacks key societal notions. But before I move on to that, I would like to raise three key points of contention that I pardon with the proposition's case. My first point of contention has to do with this whole idea of privacy and parental autonomy. My second point of contention has to do with this whole idea of the alternatives that my first speaker has already offered. And my final point of contention has to do with their substantive on the fact that these social networking websites have vital information. But let me move on to my first point of contention, this whole idea of privacy. Now the principle of this argument, this rebuttal, is that because parents already decide for their children on what clothes they wear and other such mundane issues, that they should be granted the right to their children's password, the child's password. This principle is completely wrong. Firstly, clothes and etc. I've already told you are quite mundane issues as compared to social networking websites. Why are social networking websites not as a mundane issue? Because it safeguards their privacy. It safeguards, my first speaker already told you, the integrity of the child development, and as I will tell you later, the principle of individual privacy overall. This is why it is not a mundane issue and hence cannot be categorized with other issues such as clothes and other such issues that the parents do have control over the children. And even if we consider the fact that this principle is correct, that parents do have this right, what gives them the right to illegitimize the role of social networking websites? My first speaker has already spoken to you in depth about the alternatives, which I will speak about later. For example, Stop Cyberbullying. They aim and they specialize, in fact, in preventing cyberbullying. What gives parents this right? In fact, what makes parents better than social networking websites in safeguarding the children's security as compared to the alternatives that my first speaker has offered? And this brings me very nicely on to my second point of contention about alternatives. Now, their basis for this rebuttal is that these alternatives limit the opinions of children. Firstly, again, in principle, this is completely wrong. These social networking, these online support structures, in fact, allow for a child to express their opinion. Why? Because there are a number of online support structures which specialize in particular key issues. And this is why they allow for children to express their opinions more. And even if these online support structures limit the opinions of children, this motion itself limits the opinions of children here, because parents are, without the consent of their child, gaining their password and looking through their information. This, we feel, is limiting the opinion of a child more than the alternatives ever could. And this brings me on to my final point of contention about their whole substantive on vital information. Now, their whole premise is that the social networking websites have to have an obligation to give this information to parents because it is the best information out there possible. Firstly, we challenge the fact that is this the best information out there possible? Is it the best information from the direct source? What is the direct source here, ladies and gentlemen? We all know is the child. How do we get the information from the child? No, thank you. Not by looking through their chats and not by looking through their social networking accounts, but by encouraging parents to speak to them directly and maintain the integrity of a family relationship without explaining
Point,
it.
sir.
No, thank you. And even if these websites do have vital information, isn't it better, ladies and gentlemen, for these social networking websites to use this vital information for online support structures, as it already does, as online support structures are more adept to this technological world as compared to parents. As my first speaker has already told you, parents are not adept. And this brings me on very nicely to my substantive, which is the principle of individual privacy. Let me quickly talk to you about it. Yes, please.
No, you said some issues are too sensitive for children to tell their parents. If a girl can post pictures of her slit wrist on Facebook, she probably won't show her parents because it's too sensitive.
The example that they've given us is of Amanda Todd. Maybe the reason that she could not tell her parents was because that a correct relationship between a parent and a child was not encouraged. If we focus more on A, on structure, and B, no thank you, and B, on encouraging this relationship, a warm relationship between the parent and the child, maybe Amanda Todd and the cases that are the same would not have occurred. Let me move on now to my substantive. Why privacy is important as a concept? First of all, no thank you. Essentially, this is important because it is your right to define yourself and your individuality. And this is especially important for children. Why? Because they are in the process of defining themselves as not just extensions of their identity. And privacy is the means to defend this right. Now, how does lack of privacy in the form of this motion affect key societal notions? Let's look at firstly the relationship between the parent and the child, an issue that has already been raised. Firstly, my first speaker has already spoken about siege mentality, where one person retreats under the threat or under the face of a threat. Now, whatever the intentions may be, a sense of distrust is inevitably created, and intimate communication is not encouraged. This in itself is bad enough. But let's consider the fact that we're dealing with a parent-child relationship here. Relationships that are built on trust and built on direct communication. This motion fragments completely and infringes completely on what I just told you. And this is the only way to better a parent-child relationship. And let's look at it on a societal level. Family being the basic unit of society, representation of society itself. And if this lack of trust and communication is prevalent in these families, it will be reflected in society, leading to a lack of cohesion. The Wisconsin Department of Health and Safety has proven that 77% of delinquents come from fragmented families. Even if we disregard this very telling statistic, what kind of message are we sending across if we say that digital monitoring is the only legitimate way of nurturing a child? And this brings me very quickly to my last level, which is the legitimacy of the service provider. Now, social networking and emailing websites already have safeguards in place, and allowing parents to access their children's account, we are completely challenging the integrity of these safeguards. Facebook, for example, monitors the posts that are made public by minors. Gmail, emails which have not been addressed at all by the opposition, filter out inappropriate emails to minor accounts. And this begs the question, how adept our parents actually are, who are out of touch, who are unfamiliar with the technological world. To conclude, this motion encourages parents to skip to the method of extreme resort. And this is not a society that we want our children to grow up in, and not the kind of society that we want to build. Please walk with law.